Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Brodes. It's really strange for me to see the phrase former head coach Doug Pederson, whether it's on the bottom of my TV screen or if I'm reading something on the internet, if I'm reading someone's story, former head coach Doug Pederson. It's absolutely going to take time for me to adjust to that. It's really interesting because the fan base, the pulse I'm getting, the read and the vibe that I'm getting from the fans is this is okay. This is what was needed. At least this was one of the steps. I know the outrage and everyone's disgusted with Howie Roseman, the fact that he's still here. But from a head coaching standpoint, I would have thought that there would be more crying and upset that they made such a knee-jerk reaction to get rid of a coach who won a Super Bowl. It's almost as if majority, at least this is the vibe that I'm getting, majority of the people are okay with Doug Pederson getting run out of town. And it's just odd. Maybe the ones that do support him say this is what's best for him. It's a win-win situation for Doug Pederson. He is so checked out mentally that he needed another city and he needed to go elsewhere because it's such a mess internally that they're almost rooting for Doug to go succeed in another city to essentially flip off Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman for what they have done. You know, look, there are reports that back in 2016, and this is coming from a couple respected guys, they were planning on firing Frank Reich after that 2016 season. This is getting ridiculous. Every single year, it's change. And there's two sides to this. If you don't have the right people, don't stick with people that you don't believe in just because you want stability. Jeffrey Lurie wants to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wants to be a franchise that sticks with someone for so damn long. Mike Tomlin has been there forever. They just fell flat on their face. I would imagine that Mike Tomlin is still going to be there. And look, eventually Tomlin is going to go. But look at their franchise. Look how they operate. They have stability for so damn long. They'll go through some ups and downs. They'll have great stretches. They'll have ugly stretches. But they like to stay with one identity and say, this is who we are. This is the culture. And if you don't like it, well, kick rocks. Antonio Brown, get the hell out of here. We will take that big cap hit. Le'Veon Bell, you're a joke. We don't like your attitude. Fine. And they stick together internally. So that's what Jeffrey Lurie wants to be. Yet every year, changing this coach, changing that coach, wanting this guy fired. And I forget if I mentioned this during the instant reaction podcast to Doug Pederson getting canned, but back in that 2016 season, they interviewed Jim Schwartz for the head coaching job while Doug Pederson was still there. There were so many discussions about will Doug Pederson be fired after the first year because that 7-9 season had some hideous moments. We should have seen what was coming down the road. Although the following year, he did win the Super Bowl, which is still really wild to me considering how he does coach on game day. That blew my mind, though. They were going to can Frank Reich. So you're telling me after one season, here you are questioning the head coach, questioning the offensive coordinator. Every single year you're looking for turnover. That goes against everything Jeffrey Lurie wants to be. And that shows the dysfunction. On top of, here's the most dysfunctional thing at the top. Who is drafting? We need to know what they are doing. It's getting ridiculous. Now, I know I'm spitballing about a lot of reports as of late, but that's what's going on. So many guys are writing stories, and so much is getting released, and so much is getting leaked. A lot of this is coming from internal people. If you don't think Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles are dropping nuggets to certain sources to release information, then you are out of your mind, you are whacked, and you don't know how this works. Howie Roseman is releasing all sorts of stories so he doesn't look bad. He has this all figured out in his brain. He's absolutely mind-fucking a ton of people. And that's how he continues to keep his job. you got to give him some praise, right? I mean, you got to give him some claps. He has absolutely nailed this. He has knocked it out of the park. He wins the mental game. He's got Jeffrey Lurie right where he wants him. And it's scary. But the dysfunction at the top, it's killing me because we need to know who is making these decisions. Apparently, Jeffrey Lurie wanted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Apparently, Jalen Hurts was a Howie Roseman pick. Although we had Sal Powell on the Sports Bash, and he said at the time this was a Doug Pederson pick. Doug Pederson was on board. More on that in a minute. And then, this one came out real recently, which is kind of funny. Jalen Reagor was a Doug Pederson pick, but Howie Roseman wanted Justin Jefferson. Oh, how convenient on the timing. Wow. Really? Huh. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying here? Do you see what's going on? All right, we are broadcasting live, by the way, from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. Check out all of their products, the Lawnmower 2.0, which is crazy. It's amazing. They have their Weed Whacker, which is great. You got the ear and nose hair trimmers, the boxers, anti-chafing boxers, ball toner. You name it, they have it. And it's the best products out there when it comes to keeping yourself clean, making sure your hygiene is proper, down low, below the belt. It's got to look A+. If it doesn't look A+, the production in the bed might not be A+. Promo code BROD, 20% off and free shipping. All right, so let's get back to this. The Lurie J.J. Arcega-Whiteside thing, that's been well known. All right, that's been well documented, and a lot of people who've been covering the team has had that information for quite a bit of time. The Howie wanted Hurts thing stands out to me. So I can read into Sal Powell saying Doug was on top of this pick many different ways. Was he forced to be on this pick? Doug Pederson was on board. How would it look if Sal Powell, who was very close with Doug Pederson, may I add? That's why I respect a lot about Sal Powell when it comes to the communication between him and Doug. Not that I don't in other areas, of course. He's been around the league and been covering this team for a long damn time. So he has plenty of respected sources outside of Doug Pederson. But we know that they text, they have exchanges. They are absolutely very close. So how bad of a look would it be after you take a quarterback in the second round where it was a very controversial pick from the jump? It was getting national media news attention. You just signed Carson Wentz. You all know the story. I don't have to bore you with that one. We've only been discussing it for, 10 months? You can't say that Doug Pederson hated the pick. You can't say that Doug Pederson was against the pick. Oh yeah, the head coach really despised it. The head coach has no vision with this offense. The head coach can't believe what the dumb front office just did. So what type of message would that send? Of course Sal Powell's going to say that Doug Pederson supported it and was behind it. You can't have that storyline making news and making headlines right after it happened. So come on, let's use our brain a little bit. Also, I was informed that Doug Pederson had no power. That's one of the reasons he wanted out of here. That's one of the reasons he was gone, or he is gone now. Still trying to get used to it. So now you're telling me all of a sudden Doug had enough power to really pick Jalen Hurts. And let's fast forward to the Jalen Reagor pick. Really? Howie Roseman wanted Jefferson and Doug Pederson wanted Reagor? He had no power. So how can I justify all of this being true? Who's leaking the stories? Who's giving out the information? Who is the one that's telling people this stuff? It's got to be coming from within to make Howie Roseman not look as bad. Let's calm the blow. Let's relax. It just doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, can't we put all of these pieces together? And that is comical. It's almost as if Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are unaware of how we view things, on how we see things. You think we're dumb? You think we're stupid? You don't think that we can put this all together and use our brain? Come on. It's not that hard. None of it is adding up. This guy's picking, that guy's picking, this guy's picking, that guy's picking. Well, the guys you're mentioning are out of town because they claim no one listened to me. No one was listening. So yet I'm supposed to believe that Rager's here because of him. I can't. Until I am proven otherwise. Nope. Not buying it. By the way, this coaching search is getting outrageous. If you have a pulse, you're getting called. And look, I'm not upset with the Philadelphia Eagles going down a long list and doing their due diligence to make sure they give everybody an opportunity. But I do think you're really starting to get down into some college coaches that doesn't really have a chance. I saw Ryan Day as a possibility. Once you start getting there, I'm starting to lose you a little bit. But I'm not upset with them giving people interviews and making phone calls and this and that. But, you have Deuce Staley, Salah, Todd Bowles, Lincoln Riley, a linebacker coach from New England, Arthur Smith, who's in Tennessee. I would like Dable from Buffalo, the offensive coordinator. At the not the post-game pod, I'm so used to saying that, but at the post-firing podcast, people were asking me what I wanted. It was just too much. I needed a second to digest the news, right? I mean, it was so raw. It was so new. People are already thinking about what's next. And I'm like, come on. They just fired Doug Pederson. I just need a second here to kind of assess this for what it is, and then I'll start doing my homework on who the Eagles are interested in, what they were looking for, and what direction they would go in. I really am intrigued with Salah, defensive guy. He's got some swag to him, energy. Locker room will definitely be intense and together. You would bring over the offensive guys from the 49ers. I don't know if they're going to land him, though. It seems like he's going in for a second meeting with the New York Jets. But he's almost at the top of my list when it comes to realistic options, right? I mean, Bieniemy's a hot item, but I don't really think Bieniemy is in play for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if they jumped on that quick enough because of the timing of Doug Pederson getting let go and then parting ways. So I don't even know if that's realistic. In terms of realistic ones, I really am intrigued by Salah. I like Dable, although I haven't heard his name get thrown around too much yet. That's kind of the style I'm looking for. I mentioned, would it be best for a veteran guy and an offensive guy that's been around the block, that has had some sort of success in this league, just so you can kind of get the stability back a little bit. Right now, you are so all over the place. You're so lost. Would taking a shot on a guy who's never had an opportunity the best idea? I mean, look, I see both ways. I lean towards wanting to go in a direction of a guy who hasn't had a chance yet, someone who wants to earn that reputation. And based off of the Eagles' history, taking a shot on Andy Reid, taking a shot on Chip Kelly, taking a shot on Doug Pederson. That's normally what they do. So I'm not against that. I'm asking because of how messy it is internally, would getting some sort of head coach who older age, older guy, been a head coach before, had some sort of success. I'm not claiming, bringing a guy in like, oh, yeah, let's go get Andy Reid back. No, but, like a Jim Caldwell, like I know Todd Bowles has been interviewed, and success in New York, not really, but does anyone succeed in New York? Does that automatically mean you're a bad coach because you had a bad record in New York, or is that just what you get, and is that just the outcome of working in that sort of environment? I know that name doesn't pop. I know it's not sexy, and I'm not rooting for him whatsoever. I also question, do veteran guys look at the Eagles with a little bit of a stank guy, as if really we're going to go in that direction? It's crazy, though, because Jeffrey Lurie threw this quote at us during his press conference. If we find a head coach soon, or it's early February, it's totally great. If we're the last team picking a head coach, that's great, too, because then you have all the opportunity in the world. What the hell are you talking about, Jeff? I mean, this guy's delusional. In what universe would it be good to be the last team looking for who they want? That means A lot of the guys are off the board. The guys you're looking for are no longer available. Now, is that impossible to find someone who is a stud? No, it's not impossible. But he threw so much nonsense at the wall, and he expected us to buy it. He is delusional. He's not fully aware of how brutal it really was, how bad and putrid his messaging really was. I mentioned this before. He talked about all the NFC Championship games. Yeah, when Howie Roseman wasn't even truly in power. Let's praise what happened so damn long ago. And I know it sounds silly because as of recent times, that's when they lifted the Lombardi Trophy. But also as of recent times, it has been the most horrendous when it comes to drafting, when it comes to developing players. That aspect of the team, it's been miserable. You can't relate the most recent drafts to what you had in the past when Andy Reid was the guy picking the players. And even before Andy Reid. It's a joke. It really is a joke. All right, let me tell you about my friends at DraftKings. While the holiday season may be over, the sports calendar is in full swing this week. From collegiate to professional sports, there's no shortage of action, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than with DraftKings Sportsbook. To celebrate this year's football playoffs, DraftKings is giving all new players the chance to bet on any of this weekend's professional football games at 100 to 1 odds. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any football game this weekend, and if your team wins, you cash $100. Let's not forget about the 2021 basketball season that's tipped off and DraftKings Daily Odds Boost. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to get 100 to 1 odds on any football game this weekend. That's code Brodes for new players to get a shot at $100 on any football action this weekend for a limited time. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You guys ready for the Anytime Hotline? I know I am. Let's bring this bad boy up. I'm excited. I love listening to something so powerful. Like, this is a big move. This is something where you don't forget about it. You don't forget where you were. You don't forget your first initial reaction. And there's going to be Doug Pederson appreciation at some point. I just feel that it's not now. I just feel like people are so fed up with what they have seen to this point that they are so willing to start fresh, start over, hit the refresh button, and head in another direction. The problem is because Howie is still in town and he's still in the GM chair, that you're losing faith in what this team can possibly be. I saw quotes flying all around about Jeffrey Lurie when he purchased this team, saying, I don't want to be a guy who has my hands in the mix. Jerry Jones, naming others, saying, I hire a coach because he knows more about coaching. I hire other guys because they know more about the football side of things than I do. So why would I want to get my fingerprints on this? Oh yeah, Jeffrey Lurie, why don't you go back? Why don't you go back and read that quote? Why don't you self-assess? Why don't you look in the mirror? And I know you're afraid because of your past, but you can't allow one mistake to then snowball into what you think is going to happen every time you give a head coach the keys. Now, I understand being skeptical on allowing Doug Pederson to give Press Taylor the offensive coordinator job. I'm not saying just because you have a head coach, you need to allow him to do it 100%. There's a time where someone loses that power, and I think it's fair for Doug to eventually lose power because he has shown that he is willing to just yes everyone. You know, he never wants to fire anyone. He wants to stand up for everyone, and that's just his personality. So whether it was Frank Reich, who he stood up for in 2016, luckily they did not fire him because they returned with a winning Super Bowl season. But Mike Rowe, they stood up for him, and Press Taylor, he stood up for him, and all these guys he just stands up for. At some point, yes, you need to put your foot down if you don't believe the crew that he is assessing is the right one, and I think that is fair for this last season because Press Taylor has been here, because these guys have been here, and the trajectory of the offense has been going in such a heavy downfall that you can't justify keeping these guys. Whether they end up becoming good or not good, who knows? Press Taylor could learn from this experience, change who he is, change his identity as an offensive guy, as a quarterback guy, knowing that, hey, maybe there's a reason why the Eagles didn't want to keep me. Now, I doubt that because he's probably just laughing at Lurie and Howie Roseman going, these guys suck, suck. These guys have no clue. And he moves on and he continues to work the way that he does. And maybe he fails, maybe he succeeds. Who knows? But his past experiences with Chip Kelly, his past experiences with handing guys the keys, it is definitely playing a mental game with him, and it's not allowing him to make certain decisions for the right and for the wrong. And I don't know how sustainable that is, though, is my point. If you just constantly hold all the power, you're going to miss out on the next best guy. You're going to miss out on plenty of opportunities to make the next step from an organizational standpoint. And we're going to suffer. We're going to go through pain. And we're going to be emotionally and physically abused. I don't know how physically abused. Unless you're one of those guys that, like punch yourself in the thigh 10 times after the Eagles miss a big 3rd and 2 opportunity because J.J. Arcega-Whiteside misses the pass. Oh, what a nightmare we are in. What a nightmare we are in. I do know this. The Anytime Hotline was buzzing. It's always buzzing. The phone number, 856-442-9805. Let's kick it off.
They got rid of Doug before they got rid of Howie. Is just pain. I mean, yeah, Pederson had a bad year, but Howie had a few bad years. The only thing Howie was really good at was finding practice squad players. That was about it. But as you can see, that didn't really help us out this year. He did draft Ajayi. Well, not draft. He did trade for Ajayi. And he traded for Tate, but guess what? That didn't really amount to anything, so it's just kind of hard for me to see why they went the direction they did.
The only thing that is justifiable, and it goes back to something I sort of opened the show up with when it comes to who was making the decisions, who drafted who, right? Jeffrey Lurie has more information than we do. Is it possible that Jeffrey Lurie is fully aware that he's the one picking guys over Howie? Is it possible? Jeffrey Lurie, he's in those war rooms. He's in the draft night rooms. Okay, so he sees what goes down. From the outside looking in, we know that there's dysfunction, and we know guys are picking players and has more input than others, and it absolutely plays a role in who is selected on draft night. But Jeffrey Lurie's involved. And the only way that this is logically being justified, and I always preface using logic with the Eagles by saying they don't use it, so it's not fair to apply logic to their thinking. But maybe Jeffrey Lurie understands that as much as we shit on Howie Roseman, he's not the one making the decisions. Maybe it's Lurie. So then how can you yell at Jeffrey Lurie? How can you yell at Howie Roseman if he's not even the one with full say at the end of the day? Jeffrey Lurie should be the one to blame. I'm not saying that is 100% what's happening, but I'm saying maybe that's why. It's the only thing that makes sense in my eyes. Lurie is saying firsthand Howie Roseman isn't the one making the mistakes. Now, I think that happens at times. I don't think that happens every time. And that's where the disconnect is for me. Howie Roseman has power. To act as if he has no power and Jeffrey Lurie is making all the decisions, well, that's just not a reality. And that also goes to Sal Powell's point where he said Doug Pederson wanted the Jalen Hurts pick. And not even his point. Actually, I'll move past that. The report about Jalen Reagor being Doug Pederson's pick. If Howie Roseman thought Jefferson could be who Jefferson has become, there's no way you allow Doug Pederson to step in and say, I want Reagor. If you see Jefferson's skill set, if you see his speed, if you see his hands, if you see everything that he can become, there's no way a good general manager would then look at Doug Pederson and go, I'll go with your guy, coach. No. Because you are so heavy and so knowledgeable on Justin Jefferson. You can't pass that up. If you knew Jefferson would be this good, you don't allow Doug Pederson to step in and say, I want this for my scheme. That's silly. That's called a bad GM. So it's not adding up. It really isn't. It's frustrating. My blood's boiling.
Hey, bros. Just want to comment on Doug Peterson's firing. I really think that they did a good job with that. There's just too much controversy within the last 3 games of the season. Also, I think that they should have gotten rid of Howie Roseman instead of keeping him. It's kind of, maybe it starts with Jeff Lurie and his team, him not choosing the right personnel and stuff. So, we'll see how it goes during the off season with draft picks and the free agency. But I don't see this team being a winning team within the next couple of years. All right. Thank you very much, bro.
We had a debate on the Sports Bash looking at this roster, right? Is it as bad as people say it is? Or are we just emotionally devastated that we claim it's brutal? My thought was, yeah, it's bad. It's bad, and you're going to have to cut guys. You're going to have to release guys that are important to your franchise, and you are going to have to make major moves. Now, is it a 4-year process, a 3-year process? It's the NFL. The Dolphins went from a joke to a great team, a 10-6 team that didn't make the playoffs, but they are still a very solid, successful team this season. Do I think it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years until this turns around? No, I don't think it's to that degree. So I'm somewhere in the middle. Gill believes, and Mike Gill is the host of the Sports Bash, and I help co-host it. Mike Gill believes that it's not as bad as what people say. Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, just getting those guys back will add another layer to this team. My problem is they get hurt every year. Brandon Brooks has been destroyed now 2 straight years. Now he also bounces back with this rehab that is crazy, but we're relying on these older players, and at what point is it time to not rely on the older players? I think they still have time left in the tank, and I think that they're arguably the best right side in football, so it's hard to move on from that. But what is your goal? What is your blueprint? Are you trying to reset, or are you trying to win now? You're telling me that the reason why you let go of Doug Pederson was because he wanted to win now and you wanted to lose. As if the head coach you're going to bring in next, his job is to lose football games. That message from Jeffrey Lurie is a joke. That's another thing that he mentioned during that press conference. Doug wanted to win next year. We didn't. All right, what are you saying? That's foolish. That's dumb. That's not comprehending your message. Yeah, because the guy you're bringing in here, you're going to say, can you please lose? This isn't week 17 at the end. Now, the caller mentioned the last 3 games maybe playing a part in the mess that happened and his firing. I don't think so. They wanted to bring back Doug Pederson. They really did. The goal was to bring him back. The problem is they could not get on the same page when it comes to the future of this team with the coaching staff. That's where it started. How do you fix this offense, Doug? Well, let's bring in some crappy guys. All right, yeah, that works. Come on. No, not at all. He was told to lose for that 6th pick because he was informed he'd be here. That's why they trotted him out with Howie Roseman at the end of the year in that press conference. They didn't foresee this coming. They did not know that this would be the outcome. So I don't think the last 3 games had anything to do with it. The 4-11-1 record, yes, that started the conversation, but it wasn't the reason he was fired. It truly does have to be because of the starting conversation, which is the coaching staff. The coaching staff. That's the problem.
Hey, Hunter. Long-time subscriber here, about 2 years now. I just have to say about this Doug Pederson thing, I think even though he is scrutinized for his play calling, and yes, he is very boneheaded most of the time, you are right about the locker room thing. I don't think this is going to be good for the locker room whatsoever. All those veteran guys that play for him, that have played for him, even if they said, those reports came out about them holding back from talking to him, I don't think this is Doug Pederson, man. And if Howie Roseman does not step down, we are going to be the next Cleveland Browns.
Howie Roseman is not going to step down, and I'll push back just a little bit. They're not going to be the Cleveland Browns. They never were the Cleveland Browns. I know people don't like to hear this, but they have had success when Howie Roseman, I know he wasn't the powerful guy, the most powerful guy, but he was involved in the front office for over 20 years. It's bad. It's bad right now. to ever compare this to a team that hasn't seen a playoff victory in thousands of years, it's just not a reality. It's been poor. It's been miserable. They went 9-7. It's been god-awful. The division's been bad. Let's use context. This isn't the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know it is so doom and gloom at this moment. They are not that. They are not that. It's not going to be that, and they are not that. I know it's hard to imagine right now. It's an emotional time. They are not that. That's where my disconnect is with some of the people. You know, it's almost as if it is so rock bottom that you think this team's never going to see playoff football in 30 years. And then there's some that aren't as mad at Howie Roseman, excuse me. Yeah, I can't believe that there are people out there, but there are some that don't hate Howie Roseman as much as others do, and they look at him as a top-tier person in this league, in a GM role. I was asked a question. If Howie Roseman was canned, are other guys jumping at the bits to get him throughout this league? And the answer is probably yes. Here's why. There's so much messy teams. The Jags, you mentioned the Browns. Like, there's so many teams that don't even know what any sort of success is. They would look at that track record and go, yeah, But that's where I draw the line, because some organizations are cool with 5-win seasons. Some organizations look at the playoffs as not good enough. The Eagles are that. And then there are some organizations that have 4 or 5 wins every year, and they're okay with that. They're okay with 6 wins. They're okay with 7 wins. Hell, an 8-win season is very beneficial to their franchise. Those guys can have that, but you can't allow the Eagles to have that mentality. That's why I think if you compare certain things around the league, like if you look at certain categories and certain people and certain aspects to the entire league, I think that's flawed. It doesn't need to be the entire league. It needs to be the good franchises. Compare the Eagles to the Steelers, the Ravens, the Patriots, right? Teams that have a lot of success. The Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Rams as of late. Compare the Eagles to those teams, the Seattle Seahawks, because that's the bunch you want to be in. Sometimes using the league's average is a bit flawed. And yeah, that goes into a lot of conversations that I have regarding Jim Schwartz and other guys. Yeah, absolutely. I'm acknowledging that. I'm looking at both sides of the coin here. But that still shows you, by the way, that Jim Schwartz has had a lot of success in 20 years. I hate to break it to you. If you think you're going to use that argument against me with Jim Schwartz, you're wrong. You're wrong. The locker room, though, this puts a lot of pressure on Carson Wentz. The locker room, though, is looking around going, all right, what's he have to do with this? Is there something to connect here? Are we connecting the dots? Carson Wentz, Doug Pederson gone. They invested a lot of money into him. I like Doug Pederson. I did. He shouldn't have been fired. Carson, what the hell? I'm not saying he's saying that actually to him, but in the back of the brain, in the back of the mind. Everyone's going to look at Carson Wentz knowing the organization picked him and picked Howie Roseman, Howie and Carson together over Doug Pederson. Was that the right thing to do? Was that the wrong thing to do? Doug didn't lose the locker room. It's very clear that his message did not run dry yet in this organization to the players. So how does this impact the locker room? Very, 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 very great question.
Not much going on in Philadelphia sports today, huh? You know, this Doug Pederson thing, I had kind of mixed emotions about it for a while. I mean, look, the players seemed to play hard for Doug when he was the coach. He's taken this team to the playoffs multiple times, and I think there is some street cred, as it were, for winning a Super Bowl. There's been a lot of talented coaches that have never gotten to achieve that. Here's where it ended for me. When I read that his vision moving forward to improve this team was to bring in Press Taylor as the OC and Corey Unwin as the DC. If that's true, I can't blame Jeff Lurie for stopping him in his tracks.
I agree completely. That is essentially what is being thrown out there, and that's where I was drawing the line. And that's where I look at Doug and I go, this guy wanted to get canned because he went in with that philosophy in meeting one. It went bad. It was ugly. So what did they do? They had to meet again. So Doug Pederson knew that this wasn't going to go well. He was sticking to his guns, knowing he was probably going to get canned. Meeting 2. Once you hit meeting number 2, isn't it sort of obvious the direction this is headed? Once you saw that they had to meet again in Florida, seriously, what do you think was going to happen? Now, shame on Jeffrey Lurie for flying Doug Pederson. Hey, why don't you fly down to Florida so I can kick your ass out of town? What a nightmare. Although Doug, I'm sure, went to go get ice cream. Maybe he stopped in Disney World, right? Maybe he did something like that. Made a trip out of it, went golfing, tea time at 2. He probably set up his tea time before the meeting knowing that he was going to be a free man as soon as he walked out that door. But it was inevitable that that was going to happen. And if you went in with that same mentality of this is who I want, well, then you knew this, Doug, right? You knew this was going to happen because he wanted it to happen. It's pretty damn obvious in my eyes that Doug Pederson was understanding the situation and he was fully aware of, I need to get out of here. It's not good for my mental health. It's not good for my physical health. I need to get out of this mess because I am lost. I'm not loving the game. I'm not enjoying this. This isn't for me. Because of the environment. And we'll see as times move on what this means for the franchise. There's a lot of interesting candidates, though. Did that play a role in the decision-making? Look who's out there. Previously, they interviewed Adam Gase, Ben McAdoo, Doug Pederson. Think about those options. Now, Salah, Bieniemy, Dable, Deuce Staley, Todd Bowles, Lincoln Riley, Arthur Smith, Joe Brady. There's a lot of good people in play. I wonder if they looked at this as an opportunity to go out and land a different sort of cat, a different type of guy, a real motivator. Not that Doug isn't. But there's a lot of good options this year is my point. Thank you all so much for listening. I need to let you know about my friends over at Orbit Energy and Power before I let you go. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. In addition, they provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out all their information down below. They do best-in-class work. They have a best-in-class team. They have a best-in-class install crew. You name it, they do it at a phenomenal rate. I've been all over the map today with my words. I feel like I've been fumbling left and right, so I apologize. You get my point, though. Orbit Energy and Power is a fantastic place to go if you're looking to improve your home. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.